Yo, I say hello and welcome to another video entry on the official YouTube channel from Spiritual Advice from a Barbarian Lunatic. Today I was severely angry, which is basically what keeps me going. If I wouldn't be as angry as I am, I would basically never do anything at all. My anger is basically what reminds me, that there is still some things that need to be done. Which means that, I'm really angry for a specific reason. And sometimes some things make me angry and I don't even know what. It makes me angry that I'm trying to plan this podcast. What also makes me angry how perfect my skin looks on this weird camera. But I think actually maybe it just looks like that. I've just never seen it as perfect because I always think there is something wrong with me. And I also hated the idea today to go out and record these videos. And the reason why I would hate that is, believe it or not, because I hate the world. The world makes it really easy to hate it. But that's why, we've been sent here so that we can learn how to love. And maybe 90% of the population, makes it so easy for us to hate them so that some of us can really learn to love, right? I really think that the vast majority of people in this reality, I refuse to call it a planet, because to me planets don't exist, but the vast majority of people here are just fucking assholes. And I can see them like this. I can also see them as people who are struggling just as I am struggling. And right now I'm wearing shoes with socks that, as I have been told, have been handed down to me from my grandfather, which makes it something somewhat special. I also have spent some time this morning recording. There was actually something I wanted to do, but I don't know if I can do it now. I think I'll just leave it for the next video. There's a setting on this camera which says like the detail, and it's on high. I want to change that because I think this sharpening makes it look really artificial. I think it could be just a bit blurry. Because if you over sharpen an image because you think it has to look really perfect, it loses its softness. And of course we can now project that onto my anger and saying, if I'm really sharp because I try to be perfect, I lose my softness. And that's how everybody is. That's the way I see it. Everybody's trying to be really perfect. People cook too much food and then they throw it away. And then they feel bad for throwing it away. They feel bad that they didn't eat it all. Well, the thing is, I've said it already, there's so much food available. It's impossible to... just imagine how much food is thrown away by the food industry. The supermarkets throw it away, restaurants throw it away. But I mean, if it's really something that bothers you, why don't you just start changing something? And with that I mean, why don't you start eating a bit more conscious? Why don't you start living a more conscious life? And say, how much food do I actually need? And why do I always make so much? Like, I know a lot of people and their fridge is always full. Why don't you keep your fridge just a bit empty? Well, probably because the reason you buy food is because you're afraid that there won't be enough. And so one thing, one experience I could really recommend to you is fasting. And you don't have to know a lot. All I can tell you from my own experience is that when you do want to fast, you should probably take like 2 weeks of holiday. Because when I was fasting, I didn't have to work at the same time. The first time you fast, you really need a lot of time for it. And I haven't really found the time since to fast because there's just too much stuff going on. And I see it as the only way that I would be able to fast if I would have maybe 2 weeks where I would do nothing. And maybe I'm gonna have that. But I probably wouldn't fast on everything. I'd probably smoke weed still. Right? For me, you know, there has to be something. I fasted once, but I still drank coffee, for instance. There are some people that fast. This is the Stadtpark of Lüdenscheid, by the way. Right, like, let's hope it'll still be here. Anyway, I think that's already what concludes the first video. I mean, just start educating yourself with fasting, you know, and pick the way to fast that suits you the most, because something that most people underestimate is the power of diet and the power of habits and the power that habits have over you. And with that I mean, for example, people that say they have diabetes. A large contributor to diabetes is diet. So you can assist your symptoms. You know, I don't want to say too much here because YouTube claims to be some kind of healthcare official. And as it does so, people might report my video for saying things that they claim to be untrue. All I can say to that is, you know, it's just an opinion. I don't know if that's valid. I don't know. But, I mean, there are people who never eat anything. You know, what do you say to that? I mean, do you think they have diabetes? You know, I don't know. You know, I think fasting could be a way to at least learn, because I have the feeling fasting has something to do with sugar deficiency. You know, you eat sugar, you get a high. You eat no sugar, you get a low, because your body is used to feeling high with eating sugar. So I think people take insulin shots because they don't have enough to process the sugar, isn't that right? And sometimes people with diabetes, they eat sugar, and sometimes, you know, they give themselves shots. So I think, you know, people always say people don't need sugar, but you know, now comes the weird part. People have been told they have diabetes, and then they shoot insulin, and then they have to eat sugar. So, you know, it's just an imbalance. So I think by reducing sugar intake and switching to a more ketogenic diet, I think you could bring about some kind of positive change. You know, I can't tell you that that's going to heal your diabetes, but at least your diet is going to do something about that. You know, at least make it a bit better, right? And I have read research, you know, you have to do your own research on that, but I have read some things that you can counterbalance effects of diabetes with diet, and through a ketogenic diet. And that means not a temporary shift in diet, but a complete and absolute shift. You know, that's just an opinion, and I don't know if that's all right for YouTube. You know, am I allowed to speak my mind here? Or are you going to shut me down like you've tried it already, right? I mean, is that really your goal? To be like some pretentious shit show of people that tell me what I can say and what I cannot say? Do you really want to take responsibility for people's health and make money with it, and be okay that you also withhold certain forms of information from the people who come to you, YouTube, for help? Because isn't that what YouTube is for? A platform to share and to mingle? And now you're trying to tell me what I can say here and what I can't? Because you're kissing the government's butt? Like, is that already too much? Like, are you going to shut me down for that? Because if you do, people will know what your deal is. When I'm going from this platform, because you start banning me and taking down my content, do you really think I'm going to stop talking about these things? Because I'm not insulting people on here. I'm not spreading false information. I'm just counterbalancing the biased opinions that you are spreading here, and the biased opinions that you allow, which are opinions such as, you know, to help with corona you need a vaccination, and if you say that people don't need vaccinations, they just ban you. If you say, you know, if you question corona on here, they ban you. They say, well, you know, if you question corona, you're not allowed on here. Well, am I not allowed to question anything anymore? Isn't that what you call censorship? You know, I think YouTube really has to think about what it wants, because otherwise, you know, a lot of people will start demonstrating against it. And as YouTube is dependent on us, we are not dependent on YouTube. YouTube is depending on us. There are other platforms such as odyssey.com where you can say whatever you want. All they require you to do is be nice to everybody. Like, don't bully people. Don't be an asshole, right? And that's all I have to say, you know, for now. But I'll say more.